Pretty centered. Pretty good. Pretty good. Okay. Welcome to the Fit Podcast, Freedom and Truth, where truth is taught and freedom is lived. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Thank you for joining us. Um, and we're going to be talking about something that's very important to me. We're going to be talking about a very important topic that is very important because in the world today, we can easily be fooled or be misunderstood or misdirected. So I want to talk about a topic and it's called counterfeit. I want you to think about that word, counterfeit. Okay. My title is called Counterfeit: How to Identify the Truth, Minding Your Kingdom Business. Now we're going to get right into it because I have some props on the table for you and I want to talk about that as well. I want you to learn something about these props I have on the table. It Trust me, it's related to what we're talking about. So we're going to read a scripture first, and the scripture we're going to read is Acts chapter 17, verse 11. And I'm going to be reading from the NIV version, Acts 17, verse 11. It says, "Now the Berean Jews were of more noble character than those in Thessalonica, for they received the message with great eagerness and examined the scripture every day to see what Paul said was true." What did the Bereans do? They examined the scripture. The scripture said they were of more noble character than those of Thessalonica. Well, just to give you a little background story about the Thessalonians, when Paul was in Thessalonica, he preached the gospel there. There became an uproar. Just to paraphrase what happened above the some verses above verse 11, what happened was there became an uproar because the Thessalonians, they was studying, they believe in Greek gods. They had a lot of idols, they were idol worshipers, and they believe a lot in idols. And Paul came into that town and started preaching about Jesus. He started talking about a king, and the only king they knew and respected was King Caesar, was Caesar. But now they're talking about a new king, Jesus. So it caused an uproar. Paul was forced out of town, and he ended up in Berea. And that's where we come to what we're talking about today. He's saying the Bereans heard Paul preach the same message Paul preached, but they did something different that was different from the Thessalonians. They went to work. They examined the scriptures. They heard what Paul said. Paul used scriptures from the Old Testament that spoke about Jesus, spoke about his coming, spoke about his death, spoke about his resurrection, and spoke about the kingdom, spoke about all the things. So now they need to know what he is saying. Is it really true? So they examine the scriptures. Now, why did I say that? Because today, in today's society, if you look on the social media, you look on television, you hear a lot of messages, and people believe them because they don't examine the scriptures like they should. So therefore, they're being told a lie or something that looks close to the truth, but it's not really the truth. Now, why did I say that? I'm going to tell you a story. On the table, you see there's two jars of Kool-Aid. Okay. The reason why I chose Kool Aid because growing up in the Bahamas, um, I used to drink Kool Aid a lot, and we had one source of water, and that water came from the well. So we drank Kool Aid because it was the cheapest to get. We had already had water, already had sugar. We just needed to put something in it to color the water, and that was Kool Aid. So that's what we did. So doing for a short period of my life, I drank Kool Aid in with water from the well. Well, let's talk about this a little bit. Now, the well water tastes good. It was nice and cool. The way it was positioned, the sun didn't shine directly into it. So it was always nice and cool. So we put some sugar in there and we put the Kool-Aid in and we have a nice cool drink. But there was a problem. Later on in life, we learned that the well water, even though it was nice and sweet, the well water we were drinking, even though it was digestible, it was not good for us because the well water had parasites in it, things that we couldn't see. It had required close examination. We couldn't see it from afar. We couldn't see it, so they needed close examination. So there were people who went to college, young men and women that went to college, to universities, and then they came back and then they said to us, this water is not drinkable. So by the time I revisit that island in the Bahamas, my family members begin to tell me that that water I used to drink when I was a child, I can no longer drink it. I can only use it to take baths in. Not It's no longer drinkable. Why did I say that? So now I come to this point. You see, there's two jars of Kool Aid on the table. One is from filtered water, purified water that I poured out into the jar in my house. The other jar, I went to a pond and I filled the jar up with water. Don't worry, we're not going to drink this. I don't drink Kool Aid anymore because, for personal reasons, I no longer drink Kool Aid. Okay. But just humor me. This is a demonstration. And when I'm done with it, I'm going to discard it. So no one is going to be drinking any Kool Aid. Okay. But I did that because I want you to see the difference. One of these jars is filtered water, and one of these jars is the water from the pond. So I call the one from the pond counterfeit, and I call the one from the filter original. It's in its original intent, content. Now, if you're looking on the screen, you probably can't tell which, unless you can really examine it just by looking at it. You can't tell which one is filtered water and which one is from the pond because they both has Kool-Aid, they both have sugar, and they both are basically digestible. So why did I use those? Well, what happened is when because you don't examine the word. If you do not like the Berean, what happened is you accept anything that you hear. Anything that you hear. You turn on social media today, you look on Facebook, you look on YouTube, there's all sorts of information. All sorts of information. Some are correct and some look like the truth and some are just basically blatantly not the truth at all. But what Satan works with is Satan make the word look similar. His word look similar to the truth. So people can be deceived easily. So why did I say that? Because if you think about the word counterfeit, how do a professional counterfeit detector or detective can detect a counterfeit. I read that they don't study counterfeit. If you're dealing with counterfeit money, counterfeit bills, they don't study counterfeit bills. They study the real thing. So when a counterfeit bill come in their presence, they can easily recognize the imperfections, the things that look like the truth, but it's not authentic. And that's how the word is. If you want to if you want to understand what it is to identify counterfeit, identify something that looks like the truth, but it's not the truth, you have to study the truth. You have to live out the truth. The truth, the truth is up here. One is the truth and one is a lie. This here, in order for me, now I know which one is filtered water and I know which one I got out of the pond because I did it. Now, this here is filtered water. This is filtered water. So, in order for you to know which one of these, because I did a demonstration here in our studio, in order for you to know which one is correct and which one is a counterfeit, is that you have to ask some questions. Where did you get that from? I did a demonstration here in our studio with my fellow workers, and they sort of guess which one it is, but they weren't sure. So they began to ask me questions: which one came out the pond, and which one is filtered water? You see, if you don't ask any questions, you won't know the truth. If you don't become like a Berean, you won't know the truth. You will live a lie for a long time. You might end up dying without knowing the truth. The only way you can know the truth, if you hear somebody start talking or start preaching and you don't know their source, where they get this information from, then you need to ask some questions. See, the Bereans, their lives change because they end up with their own conviction, not just Paul's conviction. They end up with their own because they knew exactly that what Paul said was true because the source that Paul referred to, they were able to go back and retrieve that information and gain their own convictions on it. So that's what happened to the Bereans. Where the Thessalonians, in Thessalonica, there were Thessalonians that became Christians, that got saved by Paul's message, but a lot more could have. Why? Because if they had just simply listened, all the hearers had listened to what Paul was saying, it would have been a larger group. But there was a larger group than the group that listened attacked Paul because they say Paul brought in a new message, which really wasn't new at all. It was original. But because they have believed the lie all their lives, because what their grandma told them, their great grandma told them, mama told them, daddy told them, they believe that. Say, hey, worship this idol, worship this Greek god. But today, we have to know the truth. And the only way to know the truth is that you have to have a character of more noble character, like the Berean. You examine, challenge these so-called messages that you hear or see on social media because you see a lot, and a lot of them, they're dressed up. They have collars on and they're telling you stuff, information that is not true. It looks true. Why it looks like it's the truth? Because they sweeten it up. They put some Kool-Aid in it. They put some sugar in it. They make it sweet. And the sweetness of it distracts you from what's really going on. Like I said, both of these are digestible. But if you take the counterfeit, pay attention to what I'm pointing at. If you take the counterfeit, how do I know this is the counterfeit? Because I was there. I put this together. This water, I got out the pond. There was ducks hanging out there. It was not a pretty water. But all I did to make it pretty is I add some Kool-Aid in it. I put some sugar in it. I shook it up. And I put it next to the truth. But the only way you can know the truth is that you have to examine it. You have to ask questions. You have to study. Because one will make you live a full life, and one is going to cause you to live a premature life. That means you won't get what you're supposed to get. Even though you're digested, you won't get anything from it. And that's what Satan wants. Satan wants you to digest the counterfeit because he knows as long as he gets you believing a lie, he wins. So my question is, will you believe the truth or will you believe the lie? So always remember that there's the truth out there, but also there's a lie. Why there's a lie still exists? Because Satan is still here. He's not in hell, like some preachers preach. He's in hell. No, he's not. He's on the earth. Study the Bible. It tells you where Satan's located. He's in the air, lurking, looking. And then when he finds, he destroys. Whatever he comes in contact with, his ultimate goal is to destroy. So always remember to look for the truth, but you got to be close to it. You got to draw it closer to you. Staying in a distance, you can be easily fooled, but based on your proximity, it will determine how much information you will be able to obtain, how you will really get to identify the truth. So, like I said, this is our podcast, and we're about telling you the truth because we want the truth to set you free. We want you to live a life that is full of victories. We don't want you to take the counterfeit that you digest and then you get sick. We want you to take the truth that doesn't make you sick. It make you whole and allow you to live life and live life to the full. Again, please like and share our page. Tell your friends about us. Thank you so much for liking and sharing our page. And I pray and I ask that you continue to do the same for us so that we can continue to tell someone about the truth of Jesus Christ, the truth about the kingdom, that who the king really is and what he's all about. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on our next podcast.